Well, good morning, everybody. Today, this is what my day is starting to look like. What I have here is some dandelions. This is the flower of a dandelion. This is the flower, the stem, and the root of a dandelion. And then this is plantain. And I've had them soaking in a carrier oil for, well, this one's been in since May 1st. These two have been in since May 13th. So it's time to take them out. We're going to go through the process of making our own salves. So what I have here is some raw beeswax. I'm going to go and shred that in my KitchenAid right over there. And I have some shea butter as well to add to that. And then I have my little tins here to add the salve into when we are done. The first thing we're going to do is strain it. And I'll show you guys the process of that. So what I have here is just a bowl, a fine mesh strainer. And I grouped up like that. And then we'll just do this. Make sure your edges hang over, just so the weight of the liquid keeps this cheesecloth down. We'll slowly let this all drip out. And you can see it just dripping out. Then I'm just going to leave the jar just ever so slightly tilted, just so everything comes out of there. And this process will take a little bit. So in the meantime, I'm going to start to shred my beeswax over. I don't think I'm going to have to actually grind this because it did shred it pretty fine. So that worked out nice. I'm going to take a cup of beeswax, or a quarter cup of beeswax, and a cup of my oil, and that's going to be my ratio. You can always take the bottom of your jar and just lightly squish on all this stuff just to get all the oils out. Here's my shea butter. This is kind of broken up, so we won't need to grind that up. We'll go and see what we have for oil. I'll melt the beeswax and the oil together, and then once that's hot and melted in, I will go in and just drop in the shea butter, and then the heat from the beeswax and the oil will melt the shea butter. And it looks like I don't have much after that, so we're just going to go and add a pinch or so more of beeswax and shea butter. But I will get every little drop out of here. All right. So in here, I just put some water. We'll turn the burner on. And then when that gets warm enough, we'll just set this on top like that, and it'll melt that. The whole purpose of doing the double boiler is because you don't want this mixture directly on the heat where it could cause it to scorch it or burn it. This is currently what it's looking like. It's only been on here for maybe 2 minutes. Everything's almost all melted. Is put my shea butter in. Like I said, it's in clumps, so I'm going to I'm going to turn my heat off. I'm just going to crumble this in. All right, we're almost there. We just have one tiny little piece that should quickly melt, and then we will put it into the tins. All right, I'm removing this off the double boiler, and it is pretty warm. What I'm going to do, I just have another measuring scoop. I'm going to scoop it out. I'm going to go to the tippy top of my tins. The bowl is still pretty warm. I'm basically repeating the steps I just did with the dandelion, but this is obviously plantain, so I'm going to go and just let this oil drip, get my measurements of beeswax, and I'm just going to repeat the process again. And after I get this done, I'm going to move this aside and show you guys. I do have the same dandelion root flowers. I'm going to go and this has been soaking since April 25th in vodka. This is going to be made into a tincture. And I have the same thing right here, just another smaller one with the leaves. So I'll probably just honestly mix these together. And then plantain soaking in vodka as well. So I'll show you guys the process. As soon as I get all this done and this process of making the salves and cleaning up, we'll go and I'll show you guys how I do the tinctures. I'm going to see how much oil we got from the plantain, which looks to be, there's 1 cup. So it's going to probably be 1 3/4 cup. Then we'll, like I said, it's the same process, but I will go and turn the heat off. And I'll get all my shea butter. Enough to fill one of these. All right, and those will just set up like the other ones did. What the salves are looking at like, and the amount of time it took me to do the dishes, those are setting very nicely. All right, so now we're gonna strain our tinctures out, and it's the same process as what we just did for the salves. So I'm just gonna take a fresh cheesecloth, put it in my fine mesh strainer, and let's do the dandelion. Might have to get more jars. Get them opened. And then this is soaked in vodka. Add this one in there. I have a few bottles with droppers, just like this. And then I have some that just have a screw-on lid. I'm going to put some of this with the screw-on lid and some with a dropper. And my reasoning behind that is because with the dropper, they do seal, they don't spill, but air slowly over time, depending on how your dropper's made, it will leak out. This is what it looks like. It's just, you can't, but it's pretty much going to be the same color as these amber bottles. Strain in the plantain. So I put the leaves in this one and the roots. There shouldn't be too much because it's just in a pint jar. Again, just lightly put some pressure on your teacher blend and just get all the drips. Hey, we're putting the droppers in. You don't want to fill them up. I usually leave them about right here. The volume on the dropper itself will take up a lot of space and raise the liquid inside of it. Go through, wipe off anything that might have spilt on the outside. Put them on the clean towel. I would say this is a cute and very successful outcome of making the Tinctures and the Salves.